Hey everyone, welcome to a deep dive.
Yeah.
One that might just shift how you experience, well, everything. We're going to
Mm.
crack open Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now,
Mhm.
a book that's helped millions, but can also be pretty dense,
Yeah, it can be tough to get through.
right? So think of us as your shortcut to its most powerful, life-changing insights.
Hmm.
We're working with excerpts from the book itself, and trust me, by the end of this deep dive, you'll see why this book has resonated with so many people.
It's true. The Power of Now, it's more than just another self-help book.
Right.
It really is about a fundamental change in how we perceive ourselves and the world.
Absolutely. And speaking of powerful transformations, if you're finding these deep dives valuable,
Hmm.
you can support us by buying us a coffee. There's a link in the show notes.
Yes, please do.
And also, our personal consultations are filling up fast.
Oh, they are.
So if you're craving a deep dive tailored just for you, sign up soon. And hey, if you're ready to unlock your full potential alongside us, comment power. Let's create a wave of positive energy right now.
That's a great idea.
All right, so to really understand Tolle's work, we need to start with his view of the human mind.
Okay, yeah.
Right. What does he say about that?
So it's not that thinking is bad in itself,
Yeah.
but he argues that it's our over-identification with our minds that keeps us from true enlightenment.
Okay. So it's not about stopping thinking. It's more about how we relate to our thoughts.
Exactly.
Right. It's like, imagine your mind as a computer, right? Too
Mm.
many programs running, tabs open everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
notifications popping up, everything slows down.
Mm-hmm.
Are you really in control at that point?
Right.
Or is the computer running you?
You're just reacting
Yeah.
to all the inputs.
Yeah. And he's saying we get so caught up in that mental noise that we lose touch with the present moment.
Yeah.
We become almost like that beggar in his analogy,
Right, right.
sitting on a box for decades, never realizing it's filled with gold.
So,
Wow, that beggar analogy really hits home. The gold being the peace and joy within us, right?
mm-hmm.
But we're so busy looking outside ourselves, at our circumstances or dwelling on the past or worrying about the future that we never even think to look within.
That's the heart of it. Yeah. And Tolle, he calls this being versus thinking.
Okay. Okay.
Thinking is all that mental chatter, the constant stream of judgments, plans, worries. Being, on the other hand, is that deeper awareness, that aliveness that's always there underneath it all.
Okay. So it's like we know intellectually that we are more than our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't actually experience that truth most of the time.
Right.
We're stuck in our heads instead of living from that place of being.
Yeah, lost in thought.
Mm-hmm. And this leads us to the core of Tolle's message.
Yeah.
The power of the now. The present moment is the only place where life truly exists. The past is gone, the future is just a projection, but we spend so much energy lost in both.
We do.
Okay, but hold on a second. Isn't some level of planning for the future necessary?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do we balance this idea of being present
Right.
with, actually getting things done in life?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question.
Right?
Tolle isn't advocating for abandoning all responsibility or action.
Yeah.
It's more about recognizing that even when we're planning,
Hmm.
we can do it from a place of presence
Hmm.
rather than anxiety or fear.
Okay.
We can be mindful of our actions and choices in each moment rather than constantly projecting ourselves into a hypothetical future.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That makes me think about those stories you hear about people in life or death situations
Mhm.
where time seems to slow down.
Right. Right.
Right? Like they tap into this heightened awareness, able to act instinctively without overthinking.
Exactly.
It's almost as if the mind chatter fades away
Right.
and they're fully present in that moment.
Yeah. No time for thought.
Right. And while we don't need to be facing a crisis to access that state,
Mm-hmm.
those examples hint at the power of the right. It's about recognizing that this same level of presence is available to us in our everyday lives.
All the time. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be real. Our minds are pretty good at distracting us from the present moment. It's almost like we're wired to jump from one thought to the next.
Yeah, our minds just love to think.
Right. It's constant.
It's what they do.
Yeah. And Tolle calls these distractions mind strategies, ways we avoid fully experiencing this.
Hmm.
Right? Think about it. How often do you find yourself waiting for the future, I'll be happy when,
Uh-huh.
or dwelling on the past?
Mm-hmm.
If only I had.
Right.
Or lost in problem-solving mode.
Hmm.
I can't relax until I figure this out. These are all ways we resist the present moment.
They are, yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that. I'll be happy when. Trap.
Hmm.
So many times I've put off enjoying life until I achieve some goal, thinking happiness is somewhere out there in the future. But then even when I reach that goal, my mind just latches on to the next thing I need to achieve.
It does, doesn't it?
It's never satisfied.
Never.
And that's the tricky thing about the mind. It's always seeking something outside of itself to provide happiness or fulfillment, when true peace can only be found in the present moment.
That's right. That's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like we're always chasing after something, never fully appreciating what we have
Right.
right now.
Right.
And speaking of things that hold us back, Tolle also talks about the pain body, which honestly sounds a bit intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be.
What is that?
He describes it as the accumulated emotional pain from the past, all those unresolved hurts, anger, sadness
Mm-hmm.
that we carry around with us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a shadow. It's like this shadowy creature that
Yeah.
feeds off our negative thoughts,
Yeah.
keeping us trapped in these cycles of suffering.
Okay. So how do we deal with this pain body?
Well, the key is awareness, right?
Mhm.
Recognizing when it's active,
Mhm.
becoming aware of the thoughts, emotions, and even physical sensations that arise
Mhm.
when it takes over.
So if I'm feeling a wave of anger or resentment,
Hmm.
that could be a sign that my pain body is active.
It could be.
And by simply observing those feelings without judgment, I can start to loosen its grip on me.
Exactly. It's like, shining a light on a dark corner,
Mm.
the darkness loses its power. And then through practices like present moment awareness and inner body work,
Okay.
we can begin to transform that pain body energy.
Okay. I'm really intrigued by this idea of inner body work. Is that one of the portals you mentioned earlier?
It is, yeah. Tolle, he describes several portals, gateways to accessing a deeper reality, a deeper connection with being. These portals include the inner body, silence and space.
Okay. So these portals are like tools we can use to kind of shift our awareness from the constant chatter of the mind
Right.
to a deeper experience of the present moment.
Exactly. Yeah, they help us connect with that sense of being.
Yeah.
We were talking about earlier, that place of peace and stillness within.
Okay, let's focus on the inner body practice for a moment.
Sure.
Have you ever noticed how much tension you hold in your body
Mm-hmm.
when you're stressed or anxious?
All the time, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I clench my jaw, my shoulders get tight. It's like my whole body tenses up.
Yeah, we store it in our bodies.
Yeah, and that tension is a sign that
Yeah.
that we're resisting the present moment.
Yeah.
The inner body practice is about shifting our attention from our thinking mind to the physical sensations within our bodies.
Hmm.
It's about feeling the life energy that flows through us.
Right. Yeah.
So instead of getting lost in my thoughts, I can bring my attention to my breath, to the sensations in my hands and feet, to the feeling of my heartbeat. And this helps us connect with being.
Absolutely. Yeah. By becoming aware of the inner body, we tap into a deeper dimension of ourselves, a dimension that's beyond the mental chatter, beyond the pain body, beyond the limitations of our ego.
This is really resonating with me. It's like by simply becoming more aware of our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
we can access, a deeper level of presence and peace,
That's right.
right?
Yeah. It's a powerful practice, and the more you do it,
Mhm.
the more natural it becomes.
Right.
Yeah. And from this place of presence, we can start to transform our relationships as well.
Okay. That's a great segue because I know Tolle talks a lot about how, our relationships reflect our own inner state.
They do. Yeah.
And that's something I'm definitely keen to explore further. But we'll have to save that for part 2.
We will. Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive into the power of now.
Yes.
We've laid some groundwork, exploring how our identification with the mind, it keeps us from experiencing the present moment
Mm-hmm.
and that deeper sense of being that Tolle talks about.
Yeah, it's true. That first part really got me thinking about all the ways I get caught up in my head, missing out on what's actually happening right now.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to explore how this affects our relationships because, I know that's a big focus in Tolle's work.
It is, yeah. Tolle's insights about relationships are some of the most profound and for many the most challenging
Yeah.
aspects of his teachings.
Okay.
He suggests that Our relationships, they often mirror our own internal state,
What?
acting as a sort of mirror to our unconscious patterns and beliefs.
Okay. So if I'm carrying around a lot of unresolved pain
Mm-hmm.
or insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
those are going to show up in how I interact with others, even if I'm not aware of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
And this is where the ego comes in,
okay.
Tolle, he believes that the ego, it thrives on separation, on the illusion that we are separate individuals
Yeah.
in relationships. They can become fertile ground for the ego to play out its games.
Okay. Unpack that a bit more for me. What do you mean by games in this context?
Well, think about the ways we try to control others,
Mhm.
to manipulate situations, to get what we want,
Mm.
or the need to be right,
Mhm.
to win arguments, even if it damages the connection.
Mm.
These are all strategies the ego uses to reinforce its sense of separateness.
So it's like we're projecting our own insecurities and needs onto the other person, expecting them to somehow complete us or fix our internal struggles.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. And this dynamic can play out in all kinds of relationships.
Hmm.
Romantic partnerships, friendships, family dynamics. It's often most evident in romantic relationships though, because those tend to trigger our deepest fears and insecurities.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
Mhm.
I've definitely been in relationships where it felt like we were more focused on trying to change each other
Right.
than on actually, accepting and appreciating who we were. It's almost like we were looking for the other person to fill a void within ourselves
Mhm.
rather than connecting from a place of wholeness.
Yeah, that's a very common pattern, and it often leads to conflict, disappointment, and ultimately a sense of disconnection.
Hmm.
Tolle, he suggests that true intimacy
Mm.
can only arise when we first find that wholeness
Hmm.
within ourselves.
Yeah, that makes me think of the beggar analogy again.
Mm-hmm.
If we're constantly looking outside ourselves
Mm-hmm.
for love and validation,
Mm-hmm.
we're like that beggar sitting on a box of gold, but never realizing it.
Powerful, yeah. Yeah. And it's a radical idea, isn't it?
It is.
That we don't need someone else to make us happy, to complete us.
Right.
We already have everything we need
Hmm.
within ourselves.
It is radical, but it's also incredibly liberating,
Yeah.
when you really think about it.
It is, yeah.
So how do we actually apply this
Yeah.
to our relationships?
Mhm.
How do we start relating from that place of wholeness
Mm-hmm.
rather than neediness?
Well, one key is to become more aware of the ego's games.
Mm-hmm.
To notice when we're trying to control,
Mm-hmm.
manipulate, or blame,
Mm.
and to choose instead to respond from a place of presence and awareness.
So instead of reacting with anger when my partner does something that annoys me,
Mm-hmm.
I can pause,
Mm-hmm.
take a breath,
Mm-hmm.
and ask myself, what's really going on here?
Mm.
Is this about them or is this triggering something within me?
That's a great example, yeah.
Mm.
It's about taking responsibility for our own emotions and reactions rather than projecting them onto the other person.
And that's where the practices we talked about in the first part come in, right?
Mhm.
Cultivating present moment awareness, connecting with the inner body,
Mm.
observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those practices, they help us create space between ourselves
Mm.
and our reactions. They allow us to respond from a place of greater clarity and compassion.
So instead of kind of getting swept away by the drama, we can create a sense of stillness within ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
even when
But
even when things are chaotic around us.
yes, and that stillness
Mhm.
is what allows true intimacy
Mm.
to blossom. When we're both present,
Yeah.
grounded, and
Hmm.
accepting of ourselves and
Hmm.
each other,
Mm.
a deeper connection can emerge. A connection that's not based on neediness or dependency, but on a shared sense of presence and love.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, does Toll, talk about what happens
Mm-hmm.
when we encounter resistance from the other person?
Mm-hmm.
What if our partner isn't interested in doing this inner work
Right.
or becoming more present?
Sure. Yeah, that's a real world challenge.
Hmm.
And Tolle acknowledges that we can't force another person to change or
Hmm.
to awaken to their true nature.
Right, right.
But he emphasizes that our own inner transformation can have a ripple effect
Hmm.
on those around us.
Okay. So even if we're the only ones actively working on becoming more present
Hmm.
and aware, our own shift can create positive change in the relationship dynamic.
It can, yeah.
Wow.
Because when we change how we relate to ourselves,
Hmm.
it inevitably changes how we relate to others.
Okay.
We become less reactive, less judgmental,
Mm.
more accepting, and that can create a space for the other person to feel safer,
Hmm.
more seen and perhaps even inspired
Hmm.
to explore their own inner growth.
That's encouraging,
Yeah.
because it means that even if we can't control the other person's behavior,
Mm-hmm.
we can still create a more harmonious dynamic
Mm.
by focusing on our own inner work.
Right, exactly.
Hmm. And it's important to remember that sometimes the healthiest choice
Mm-hmm.
might be to step away from a relationship that's no longer serving us,
Right.
even if we've done our own inner work.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if both partners are willing to do the work,
Mm-hmm.
totally suggests that relationships can become a powerful path to spiritual growth and awakening.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because when two people are committed to presence,
Hmm.
to awareness, to accepting themselves
Yeah.
and each other fully, the relationship, it can become a crucible for transformation,
Okay.
a space where both partners can support each other's evolution.
That sounds incredible,
Yeah.
but also incredibly challenging,
It is, yeah.
right? It's like we're no longer looking to the other person to complete us,
Mm-hmm.
but to reflect back to us our
Mm-hmm.
own wholeness and our own areas for growth.
Exactly, yeah. It's about seeing the relationship as a mirror.
As an opportunity to learn about ourselves and
Mhm.
to deepen our connection to our true nature. And that brings us to another key point that Tolle emphasizes,
Mm.
the importance of surrender
Okay.
in relationships.
Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued because when we talk about surrender in relationships, it
Mhm.
can sound a bit like giving up or losing
Yeah.
ourselves.
Right.
But but I know that's not what totally means.
Right. He's
Yeah.
he's not talking about,
Right.
giving up.
All right.
He's using the word surrender in a much deeper sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not about becoming passive or allowing ourselves to be mistreated.
Yeah.
It's about surrendering to the present moment,
Hmm.
to the reality of the relationship
Mm.
and to the flow of life itself.
So it's more about letting go of the need to control the outcome, the need to have things our way,
Right.
the need to change the other person.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's about accepting what is.
Mm.
Even if it's not what we want it to be.
Right.
And from that place of acceptance,
Yeah.
we can then choose how we want to respond.
This is making me think about those times when I've tried to force a relationship
Mhm.
to be something it wasn't,
Right.
or to change my partner into someone they're not.
Right.
And it always creates so much tension and conflict.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
because resistance,
Hmm.
it creates suffering.
Mm.
When we resist what is, we're essentially fighting against the current of life.
Right.
But when we surrender,
Mm.
we align ourselves with that current,
Mhm.
allowing things to unfold naturally.
It's like the difference between swimming upstream
Mm-hmm.
versus downstream, right?
Yeah.
One is exhausting and frustrating, while
Right.
the other is effortless
Mhm.
and allows us to go further.
A beautiful analogy, yeah. And that's the power of surrender in relationships.
Hmm.
It allows us to let go of the struggle, to accept the other person for who they are, and
Mhm.
to connect from a place of greater peace and presence.
This is really shifting my perspective on relationships.
Mhm.
It's less about, you know, finding the perfect person or trying to create like a fairy tale romance,
Mhm.
and more about embracing the reality of the relationship, the good and the bad, and choosing to connect from a place of authenticity and awareness.
That's a beautiful way to sum it up. And it's from that place of surrender and acceptance that
Mhm.
true love can blossom.
Mm-hmm.
Love that's not based on need
Yep.
or dependency, but on a deep recognition of
Mm.
the shared humanity within each
Mm.
of us.
This is really profound stuff.
It is, yeah.
And I think it connects beautifully to another key concept in Tolle's work. The idea that true peace isn't about pursuing happiness
Hmm.
or avoiding unhappiness.
Right. Yeah. He suggests that there's a deeper peace
Mm.
that transcends the ups and downs of life. A
Yeah.
peace that's available to us,
Mm.
no matter what our external circumstances may be.
It's about finding a sense of stillness
Hmm.
and acceptance in the midst of it all.
Exactly. Yeah. And he illustrates this beautifully with the story of Banzan, the butcher, who is asked by a monk
Mm.
which piece of meat is best.
Okay.
And he replies, every piece of meat I have is the best. There is no piece of meat here that is not the best.
Mm-hmm.
And upon hearing this, the monk becomes enlightened.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
it's about seeing the perfection in every moment,
Mm.
even the seemingly bad ones.
Wow, that's profound. It's about recognizing that everything is as it should be. That
Mhm.
there's a deeper intelligence at work in the unfolding of life.
Precisely, yeah.
Yep.
And that acceptance,
Mhm.
that surrender to what is
Mhm.
the key to finding true peace and freedom. It's about aligning ourselves with the flow of life
Mm-hmm.
rather than fighting against it.
This is so powerful. I feel like we've covered so much ground already,
We have
but there's still more to explore, right?
there is, yeah. There's a whole other dimension
Mm-hmm.
to surrender that we need to explore its impact on our well-being, our
Mm-hmm.
creativity, and even our spiritual growth.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely ready to dive deeper. Let's continue this conversation in part 3. Welcome back to the deep dive. I feel like we've already been on quite a journey, exploring the core ideas of the power of now and how they can transform our relationships and even our understanding of peace itself.
It's true. Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, but the journey isn't over yet. There's another layer to Tolly's message.
And I think will really resonate with you the practical implications of
Mhm.
surrender
Okay.
in our daily lives.
It's one thing to grasp these concepts intellectually, right?
Yeah.
But actually living them is a whole other challenge. Our minds are experts at pulling us back into resistance mode.
They are, yeah.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we actually practice surrender?
That's the key word, practice.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about achieving some perfect state of surrender,
Right.
but about consciously cultivating it moment by moment. And one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to do this is through cultivating present moment awareness.
Okay. So we're back to that idea of being present. But how do we actually do that when our minds are constantly like bombarding us with thoughts and worries?
Well, we'll think of it like training a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
At first it takes effort to redirect your attention
Mm-hmm.
to the
But with practice it becomes more natural. Notice when your mind is pulling you into the past, replaying old hurts or regrets, or when it's projecting you into the future, fueling, anxieties about what might happen. Gently bring your attention back to the present moment.
Okay, so if I'm caught up in a worry spiral
Mm-hmm.
about an upcoming presentation,
Yeah.
right? I can pause, take a
Mhm.
deep breath,
Mm.
and focus on my senses.
Mm.
What do I see, hear, feel, taste,
Mm.
smell
Mm.
in this very moment?
Exactly. Yeah, it's about grounding yourself in the physical reality of the now. Even a few seconds of this conscious shift can make a difference.
It's like hitting the reset button
Mm-hmm.
on my mind, creating a little pocket of peace amidst the chaos.
Yes, and as you practice this,
Mhm.
those pockets of peace,
Mm-hmm.
they'll become more frequent
Mm-hmm.
and more expansive.
Yeah.
You'll start to notice that you have a choice in how you respond to each moment.
So it's about cultivating that space
Mm-hmm.
between the stimulus and our reaction.
Yes.
Right. Instead of automatically reacting with stress or anxiety, we can choose a more mindful response.
That's a great way to put it. And that space, that pause, that's where the power of surrender lies.
Mhm.
It allows us to step out of the reactive patterns of the ego and access a deeper wisdom within ourselves.
Okay, that makes sense. But surrender is not only about being present. It's also about accepting what is, even when it's challenging.
Right. Yes, acceptance is a crucial aspect of surrender.
Yeah.
It's about saying yes to the reality of the present moment
Hmm.
without judgment or resistance.
So if I'm dealing with a difficult situation, a health issue, a financial setback, a challenging relationship,
Hmm.
acceptance means acknowledging the reality of what's happening without trying to like deny it
Right.
or wish it were different.
Yes. It's about surrendering to the isness of the
Mm.
present moment.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to like it
Yeah.
or condone it.
Right.
But by accepting it, you stop resisting the flow of life.
Hmm.
And in that surrender,
Mm.
you free up energy
Mm.
that can be used for healing,
Mhm.
growth, and creative solutions.
So instead of kind of exhausting myself
Mm.
fighting against reality,
Mm.
I can channel that energy into taking positive action or simply into, finding a sense of peace within the situation.
Exactly. And this principle of acceptance, it applies not only to external circumstances, but also to our internal world.
Yeah.
Our thoughts, our emotions, our physical sensations.
Hold on, you're saying we should accept our negative thoughts and emotions too. That seems counterintuitive. Don't
Yeah.
we want to get rid of those?
Well, it's not about suppressing
No.
or denying those thoughts and emotions, you
Yeah.
know? It's about creating space
Uh-huh.
for them to arise without judgment, you
Mm.
know? When we resist our feelings,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to intensify.
Okay.
But when we accept them,
Mm-hmm.
they lose their power over us.
That reminds me of the analogy of like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Mm-hmm.
The more the more we push it down,
Mm-hmm.
the the more forcefully it pops back up.
A perfect illustration, yeah.
Mm.
Acceptance, it isn't about liking our negative emotions,
Okay.
but about acknowledging their presence
Mm.
without making them bigger
Mm.
than they need to be.
Right.
We can simply observe them,
Hmm.
allow them to flow through us, and
Mm.
and trust that they will eventually pass.
And this is really challenging my usual approach of trying to like fix or control my emotions. What you're describing feels more like, allowing myself to experience the full range of my human experience
Hmm.
without judging myself for it.
That's exactly it. And in that acceptance,
Mm.
we discover a deeper peace that transcends the constant fluctuations of our emotional landscape.
Okay, this is really resonating with me. So we've talked about present moment awareness
Hmm.
and acceptance
Hmm.
as key practices
Hmm.
for surrender. What else can we do to cultivate this way of being?
Well, another crucial practice is letting go of attachment to outcomes. This is a big one because our minds are often fixated on how we think things should be.
Well, I'm definitely guilty of that. I get so attached to my plans and expectations,
Hmm.
and then I'm devastated when things don't go the way I envisioned them.
Yeah, it's a common human tendency. But this attachment,
Hmm.
it creates suffering because we're essentially resisting the natural flow of life. Letting go is about releasing that grip, surrendering to the possibility that things may unfold differently than we expect.
Hmm.
And trusting that there's a higher intelligence at work,
Hmm.
even when we don't understand it.
Okay, so if I'm applying for a new job
Hmm.
and I'm super attached to getting it,
Right.
Letting go would mean doing my best, preparing well,
Right.
and then releasing the need to control the outcome.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about surrendering the outcome to a higher power,
Mhm.
to the wisdom of the universe, trusting that what's meant for you will not
Mhm.
pass you by.
That's a powerful concept. It's like we're trading our limited perspective
Mm.
for a more expansive view of life.
Hmm.
Recognizing that there are forces at play
Hmm.
beyond our control.
Yes. And in that surrender,
Hmm.
we often find that things work out
Hmm.
better than we could have imagined.
Right.
Because we're no longer limiting ourselves with
Right.
our fears and expectations.
Okay. So to recap, surrender is a multifaceted practice that involves, cultivating present moment awareness
Hmm.
accepting what is,
Mm-hmm.
and letting go of attachment to outcomes.
That's a great summary. And as we embody these practices,
Hmm.
we'll find that we naturally become more peaceful,
Hmm.
more joyful, more aligned with the flow of life.
Right, and that alignment, that surrender to the present moment is the essence of Tola's message,
It is,
the,
yeah.
the key to unlocking the true power of now.
It is. As you continue to explore these ideas
Mm.
and experiment with these practices,
Mm-hmm.
you'll discover the transformative power
Mm.
of surrender, the profound peace and freedom
Hmm.
that come from aligning yourself with the intelligence of life itself.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
This has been a truly insightful exploration of the power of now. And for all of you listening,
Hmm.
we encourage you to revisit the earlier parts of this deep dive, to explore the full book,
Hmm.
and most importantly, to experiment with these practices in your own lives.
Yes,
Right.
because as Tola reminds us, the present moment is the only place where
Mm.
life truly exists,
Mhm.
and surrender is the key to unlocking its infinite potential.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Don't forget to comment power if this deep dive has, helped you unlock a deeper understanding of the power within yourself.
Hmm.
And be sure to check out the links in the show notes to support the show and book
Yes.
a consultation before they fill up. Thanks for listening.